And welcome everybody to another episode of Yard Prep here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host, Louis Sung, and I am joined by a bevy of hosts today. I've got Chris the Duke Early, I've got Eric Weideke, I've got Michael Quirk, I've got everybody available here. So everybody, I appreciate you coming in. I am thankful we're getting ready for Thanksgiving. I gotta say, I'm thankful that you guys are here with me on this show as always. And yes, hello, my father of mine. Good morning to you as well. Here's hoping we all have a good day on Prize Picks, which, by the way, did I mention this show is brought to you by our good friends over at prizepicks.com. Prizepicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, or the MLB, or one of each. It is up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat, which means they give you free squares over there from time to time. So it can't get any easier than that. They have special Taco Tuesday discounted promos. They have Flex Friday where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Use the promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. All right, guys. So how did the bye week treat you, gentlemen?
I mean, listen, you don't have to could just sit back and enjoy watching everyone who needed to lose. I had a bit of Schadenfreude, I would say, throughout the weekend, especially Monday. I'm sure I'm not alone in that.
Yeah, it was difficult for me. It was difficult because on the one hand, I appreciated the break. I didn't have to worry about making sure I was here getting ready to do shows. I could spend a little extra quality time with my lovely lady and just being able to just relax. But it's also good to have Dolphins football back, and it's going to be an interesting start to it all because we are dealing with a Raiders team who is, in many ways, it is in flux right now. On the one hand, they did just lose their head coach. They have Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be the starter. It's going to be Aiden O'Connell, which, for lack of a better term, he is iffy right now. Most people are happy that he's starting in Las Vegas only because he is not Jimmy Garoppolo, which is not necessarily a great reputation for him to have at the moment. They still got Davante Adams. They still got Josh Jacobs. They have some pieces there on that offense that can function, but that's provided that the Dolphins defense is taking a step back today instead of a step forward. So I want to get into everything that we're thinking here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Michael. The Dolphins are off their bye week. They're getting healthy. This is probably the healthiest they have been for some time, even though Robert Hunt is not going to be available in this game, and neither is Chase Claypool. Robbie Chosen was released to make room for Devon Achane, who, by the way, is also back. And then he was summarily brought back to the practice squad after clearing waivers, and then he is now elevated to play in today's game again. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Where do you see this Raiders game going here on offense for Miami?
I, for one reason or another, have unfortunately watched a lot of Raiders games this year. And of course, it was all a mess before Josh McDaniels was ultimately let go. But there's times when they either force feed it to Davante Adams or they just completely forget that he exists and say, hey, let's just give it to Josh Jacobs for 3 yards in a cloud of dust every single time. So I know that they have a little bit of momentum. They now have the same record as the Buffalo Bills. But the last 2 weeks, they beat the teams from New York, which that doesn't scare me too terribly much. So, you give Mike McDaniel 2 weeks to prepare, and you also give the Dolphins a week to get healthy. From what I've seen from this Raiders team, that should be good and plenty.
All right, and Eric, I want to get your thoughts as well because, like I said, this Dolphins team right now is the healthiest they've been in a while. But I'm going to pull up the inactives list in just a moment. I want to make sure everybody gets their thoughts on it. But I want to go ahead and get your initial thoughts about this.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a bread and butter game for the Dolphins offense here. They're going to get into exactly what they want to do today. They've got Raheem Mostert coming back. Not Raheem Mostert coming back. They've got Devon Achane coming back. Raheem Mostert is still going to be involved. Chase Claypool is out, but that also comes with River Craycraft coming off of IR, who had a really underrated role in this offense prior to his injury. I look for the Dolphins to kind of hit the classic beats in this one. There's going to be a lot of motion. There's going to be that dynamic offense. It's going to look a lot like the team that we saw in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. At least I expect to see on the offensive side.
All right, and now Duke. So I'm pulling up the inactives list now. Some interesting names has popped up on this list, so I just want to go ahead and read it off for you guys real quick. Braxton Berrios, inactive. He's been dealing with an injury. Skylar Thompson is a no-brainer there. Jeff Wilson is inactive today. Robert Jones, Robert Hunt, no surprise there. Durham Smythe is inactive, which is very interesting. That means the Dolphins are going to be relying almost solely on Julian Hill, the undrafted rookie, for this one. So I want to get your thoughts on this whole thing. It's a very interesting inactives list here.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson's kind of a surprise to me. I know they brought back Achane, but this is a team that is terrible at run defense. I think they're 29th in the league. So I figured Jeff Wilson would probably get some extra run in there, and they would ease back Achane easily and more slowly. But it looks like they're going to go full force with Achane, which is good. He's a dynamic playmaker when he's got the ball in his hands, so I'm good with that. But yeah, and Durham Smythe's I think he's been injured. I know he kind of got hurt against the Chiefs. I don't remember exactly what it was. I just remember I think he missed some time in that game. So that's kind of not a surprise, but hey, it's good for Julian Hill. I'm always a sucker for like those underdog success stories. And so guys like Cameron Wake, which is the jersey I'm wearing, his storyline, guys like Zach Sealer and Cater Kohu, I gravitate toward those stories. So I'm there for Julian Hill. I hope he gets a touchdown today. Just good stuff. But yeah, he's a good blocker. Craycraft is back. Another undrafted guy. He's probably the best blocking receiver on the team. So that's going to be good. I expect him to be kind of the step up and be the number 3 option at receiver. So all in all, Jeff Wilson's probably the biggest surprise. I figured he would just be in there to get, for running purposes. But that means Savon Ahmed is not. And that's probably more of a special teams, deal. But he's just not had, he had a couple good games early on and then just didn't do very well the last few games. So hope he can get it turned around.
All right. And on the defensive side of things, you notice this is an entire inactives list, the whole list right here that we're seeing. Everybody on this list is on offense, which means everybody who is there everybody who's on defense is available and ready to go. So Jalen Ramsey, obviously available, Xavier Howard available, Javon Holland available. Everybody is good to go. So Hooked Up Joe says something must be up with Wilson picking Ahmed to be active today instead of Wilson. I honestly, after Duke brought it up, I feel like that it might be the reason why he said it, is that it might have a lot more to do with just the special teams aspect of it. Jeff Wilson doesn't play special teams that much. Meanwhile, Savon Ahmed does. And now that Devon Achane is back, the Dolphins are going to need somebody who can actually play special teams, and that's going to be Savon Ahmed. So I expect it basically to be full on the Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane show. Jeff Wilson, I don't think he's dealing with anything. I think this might just be a healthy scratch. He's just not playing because he's not in the game plan for whatever reason. But I will say this on the defensive side of things. Right now, the Dolphins have a very good opportunity here to continue to improve, continue to take steps forward. Aiden O'Connell is not a quarterback that we should necessarily be scared about. Of course, this is the team that once upon a time lost twice to Thad Lewis and the Buffalo Bills. So there's something about these unknown QBs that seems to give the Dolphins trouble. I don't want to say that Aiden O'Connell is going to continue that trend just because we have ourselves a much improved defense, especially on paper. Mike, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts on what you've been seeing from the defense over the past couple of weeks. I remember there was not that long ago that we were saying that Vic Fangio needs to get everything fixed. It looks like we might be trending down that path, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, there was some new parts in a new system, and then it's just been a real revolving door of who's going to be in the injury tent. So I think with an extra bye week, extra reps, while also having some guys who can get right if they need to get right in terms of getting healthy, I think that you should start to see them come together, because it really hasn't made much sense to have a guy like Vic Fangio, who's one of the best defensive coordinators in the modern NFL, with all the tools that he has, to just get beaten up at times the way that they have. So Xavier Howard has quietly had a really good comeback year. Jalen Ramsey was making plays right when he came up. Obviously, Javon Holland has continued his ascent into what we all believe will be stardom in this league. So I'm looking for more of a complete game from them today. I know that there's going to be a lot of selling out to stop the run, because that is what Antonio Pierce is going to want to do. So I'm a bit bullish on the Dolphins defense today. I mean, listen, the guy that I know that we give him a mention every now and again in the pregame and postgame, but the guy who just has been the most consistent for me on the defensive side of the ball is Zach Sealer. He has been an absolute monster, and I know that there's some of other offenses tuning in on Christian Wilkins after the monstrous 2022 that he had. But Zach Sealer, just every single time he's in, continues to make plays and continues to show why he got that extension. And I'll have my eyes on him in particular today.
All right, so I want to go ahead and first of all, Hooked Up Joe saying, smack that like button and 23 watching helps the streamers. Yes, it does. Absolutely. You know what else helps us out? When you use the super chat to give comments. Really appreciate that. Never anybody does that. If you guys want to get yourselves involved in the show, we will absolutely take whenever you have that there. He also mentioned that our D has gone from the mid-20s to 12th and 13th ranked, and that includes all the bad early stats. So in that retrospect, you could say that our defense right now is top 10, which hopefully that was what we were waiting for, right? That was the moment that we were waiting for, to see Vic Fangio fix this team and get it back in the sense that we are one of the top defenses in the NFL. There are 32 teams in the league. Getting to top 10 is no easy feat. But now that we've got all these pieces together, you would imagine that you're probably going to have either Xavier Howard or Jalen Ramsey at any given moment. They can flip-flop onto Davante Adams. I know that Hunter Renfrow has been an underrated target for a long time for the Raiders. So I figured that whoever is covering who is not covering Davante Adams, rather, they would be responsible for taking care of Hunter Renfrow. Darren Waller is no longer there.
Jacoby Myers on the other side.
I mean,
he's having a good year this year.
I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, I remember Jacoby Myers. Wasn't he a Patriot, if I'm not mistaken? He was a meh Patriot. So, like, okay, so he was a meh Patriot. He's going to be a meh wide Raider just because, yeah, he's having a good year. But is that because is that just because of him, or is it because there's not a whole lot of options to go for right now on the Raider side of things besides Davante Adams? So something to think about there. But Eric, I want to get your thoughts on the defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes overall to the defense, I like this position for them. They're playing a rookie quarterback, so Fangio is not going to have to be super aggressive. He's not going to have to blitz more than he wants to, really. With the rookie quarterback, you can kind of sit back into that zone, and with a lot of them, they're not advanced enough when it comes to reading the defenses, and they're going to make a bad throw at some point and throw it to one of your guys. But the key on defense in this one with the Raiders is going to be stopping Josh Jacobs on 1st and 2nd down. They're going to want to get into 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. If you keep them 3rd and 7+ regularly, and then you let Bradley Chubb, who's come on in the last few weeks, and Jalen Phillips, who's really come on. He was talking about, coming off the injury, how he felt like a shell of himself. And he's really started to kind of shake off that rust a little bit as well. If you get this offense into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, where the defensive line can eventually tee off on O'Connell, I think they'll be in a great spot. It's really going to come down to the defensive line, Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins plugging up the middle, and the guys cleaning it up, David Long, Jerome Baker. Those guys are going to have to be doing a decent job at that second level to kind of clean up those runs, anything to get past the first line of defense.
All right. And so now I want to transition real quick here. So as we mentioned, we are brought to you by Prize Pick. So I want to go into some of the Dolphins props here that we can talk about this, just to kind of get an idea of some individual performances for today. Just going to bring this up so that everybody can see it. You guys, Eric, you were mentioning stuff like defense. So we have the Dolphins defense over under on 6.5 fantasy score. They don't have that particularly, but we have Bradley Chubb here on whether or not he's going to get a sack. How many tackles total is David Long going to get? How many plays is Jalen Phillips going to make? So if you can see this list here, where would you want to go ahead, especially on defense? Who would you have the most faith in getting this done?
On the defensive side of the ball, I'm looking at that David Long 6.5 tackles plus assists, and I'm looking at that, and I'm liking that. At the moment, that's kind of the first thing that's jumping out to me. Yeah, just because of how much the Raiders are going to be running the football, I think there's just going to be a lot of opportunities for David Long to go ahead and get as many tackles as possible on Josh Jacobs today.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going down the list here. So we have Jalen Ramsey here at 3.5. We have the offensive stats, obviously, of course. Duke. Going down this list here, you've got Jalen Waddle on reception targets, receptions overall, receiving yards. You've got Raheem Mostert on his yards. You got Tua, obviously. What are you looking at here and saying that might be a good prop to look at?
I am slamming the over on Mostert yards.
All right, so this is the rushing yards here.
I said on Tuesday night, I think he goes over 200 today. So this Raiders defense is not good against the run. This is in my opinion, a survive and advance game. I don't think the passing game is going to have to pull a lot of the work, pull their own weight today. I think the running game is going to do it. So, I think they're going to let Achane come back slowly. So I think this is a Mostert gets a lot of carries, a lot of work today. And I would be very surprised that he gets less than 100 yards. So whatever that pick was. One other thing I want to mention, talking about going at the defense and some of these, Colton Miller has been ruled out for the Raiders. He's their best offensive lineman. And so they're going to have two backup. Well, Jermaine Illuminoro has been their right tackle. He's moving to the left side, and they got somebody else on the right side. I don't know who. So
Duke,
they've got
I do not want to interrupt too much, but we are contractually obligated to mention that the Dolphins let Jermaine Illuminor leave, and he became a starter with the Raiders. So
so he did, and he was a guy that I thought may hit free agency that Miami could pick up. They didn't need him since Austin Jackson has stepped up amazing. And if you get the chance, go watch the Mike McDaniel press conference where he talks about Austin Jackson. That's pretty good. But I would any of those sack props that you have there, I would absolutely take them, just because I think if Miami gets out fast, like we hope they do, and this becomes a runaway game, they're going to have to pass to get back into it. And with backup tackles against Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Andrew Van Ginkel, even throw Emmanuel Ogbah in there, it's going to be rough sledding with that offensive line. So yeah, I think Chubb and Phillips both get on the board today with a sack, maybe more.
Okay. Mike, let's get your thoughts. Who are you eyeballing here on this list? It's an extensive list here. You got a bunch of Tuas, I got a bunch of Tyreeks, you got some Zach Steeler in there. Who are you looking at the most?
I love the Achane over in his first 5 carries, I believe 22.5.
Diverse rush yards in first 5 attempts right here.
Yeah, and that can be a bit of a crapshoot at times, those bets. I had Davante Adams over, I think it was 18.5 yards in his first 2 catches last week, and they decided to just give him 2 screens for, I think, a total of 6 yards before he went off for the rest of the half. But Achane can get that in 1 carry, and we've seen that. And so he could get bottled up for 4 and then just take that one out. So I like that one a lot, even though those can be a bit fluky. I think Achane's going to be chomping at the bit to get out of the gate and get these things going.
All right. By the way, I'm taking notes on everything you guys say, and I'm just going to add that to my my list here in just a moment. As a matter of fact, this is actually my account, so let me just let me just do this real quick here. Let's see, Dolphins. Let's see. I'm going to pick Jalen Phillips for the sack. Thank you very much. You mentioned Devon Achon. Let me get that in there. Yep. I also, in a minute, I want to go ahead and get into the Raiders side of things, because by Price Picks rule, I have to at least pick the other team at least once. So let's get into the Raiders side of things. So we've got some names on here as well. We can keep an eye on. Aiden O'Connell, obviously, he's going to be on that list. Daniel Carlson, the kicker. Davante Adams. So of all these Raiders players, like, even if it's an underperformer, because you can pick the under here, you are not required to pick the over. So of all these players here that these Raiders have on here, who would you be keeping an eyeball on as far as fantasy goes?
I like the Aiden fantasy points under, because he is not adept at running the ball, so you don't have to worry about that at all.
You're talking about Aiden O'Connell, the QB?
Mm-hmm. You can see him turning the ball over. He made a couple interception-worthy throws last week. Yeah, I think the under 12 is pretty safe there.
All right. Duke. Got a Raiders pick for me? You're muted if you're trying to talk.
The matchup that would concern me in this game is going to be Max Crosby versus Austin Jackson. I know we discussed that on Tuesday night a little bit. I would say he gets a sack today, not because Austin Jackson's bad, just because Max Crosby's very good. I think they will try to scheme him out of stuff, but he's too good to be blanked. And if I'm wrong on that, I apologize. But
No
hey,
problem.
It means Austin Jackson did his job. So I would definitely take Max Crosby. I don't know enough about the other skill position players that they have. I saw one up at the top with Aiden O'Connell. I guess it was yards. Is that 200.5 yards?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say he might go over that, and just simply for the fact I think toward the end of the game the Raiders are going to be throwing. And so it may just be one of those opportunity stats where he gets the yards because he has to, 250 yards and like 50 attempts or something. So hopefully it goes that way. But I would definitely take the Max Crosby.
All right. And Eric, you're the last one. We're going for the big win here today. So let's see what we can do.
So to continue my theme of, I guess, being the Jacoby Myers guy on the pregame show.
Oh, okay.
I'll go over 3.5 receptions on Jacoby Myers. He's been surprisingly decent this year, 42 catches in 10 games. I think he goes over just because the Raiders are going to have to throw the ball a bunch of times today, kind of like Duke was talking about. This is a game script game where the Raiders are going to be throwing a lot at the end, and Jacoby Myers will take advantage.
Okay, so that's going to be my props. So thank you, everybody, for helping me out on that one. So I'm just going to remove this real quick. So and
we get a cut, right?
Yeah, if I win, I'll make sure I send some your way. All right. Hooked Up Joe, by the way, thank you very much for using the promo code and joining Prize Picks. It definitely helps us out when you do that. So everybody else who has not done so, make sure you're doing so. Let's get ready to wrap this thing up. So now it's time for the part of the show where you either love it or you hate it if you're making the picks. But time to pick the zeros and the heroes and time to give the score prediction. So, Duke, I think you gave yours on Pulse of Vince Nation. I don't know if you remember which ones yours were, but I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead and just recap that real quick. Your zero and your hero, and what was your score?
Okay, my zero, and I picked not because it's going to be a bad game. It's just going to be not necessarily a great game, and that was Tua. I don't think he's going to get a ton of attempts today because I think they're going to run the ball. So I said he's going to get something like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is a great game, really, but it's less than what we kind of expect from Tua, which is, again, a positive thing. When is the last time we expected more than that from a Dolphins quarterback? So, again, not bad, just he's not going to have like an epic day today. The hero was Raheem Mostert, 20-plus carries, 200 yards, couple scores. My score prediction was 31-7 Dolphins.
All right, so that's a fair amount, I'd say. The only thing about Raheem Mostert that makes me a little bit nervous is the fact that since Jeff Wilson is inactive, like we mentioned earlier in the show, I think they're just going full on H-on, and if he goes ballistic, then they're just going to hand him the rock and say, because sorry, Duke, even Mike McDaniel had said, he could have played 4 weeks ago with a brace on. We just decided to put him on IR anyway. So it was just one of those things where it's like, is he really hurt? Does he actually need easing in, or is he just like ready to go ballistic?
And I know that Ron and Alf picked him as a hero. Or no, they picked him as a 0 because they don't think he's going to get a lot of touches. And now he might have like 10 carries, 200 yards, and 3 scores or something. So that's just how he is. But I think Mostert's just going to get a lot of the workload. I think he's been kind of, I don't want to say not underperforming. I don't have the right word right now, but I think he's he wants to go out and prove that, like, hey, I'm here too. It's not just the Achane show. And I think he's going to go out and have a big game. So I think Achane's going to get his, but I just don't think it's going to be enough touches to be a massive, again, he might get 200 yards on 10 carries because that's what he does, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily a volume thing.
All right. Eric, 0 hero score prediction.
My hero, I'm gonna do the cliche thing and go with Achane. Kind of like Duke said, I don't think he has to have a ton of carries to have the hero-like impact on the game. I'm expecting like 8 carries for 120 yards and 2 scores, honestly. And then my 0 today, not because I think he's going to have a bad game, but because anytime you go against Max Crosby, you're going to get got once or twice, and it's going to be Austin Jackson. I think he'll hold up okay, but I have to pick a 0, and he's as good a bet as anyone. Final score 34-13 Miami.
All right, Michael.
I was about to have nearly the exact same score as Eric, so I'll tilt it a little bit. For my 0, I'll go with Jason Sanders. I'll just throw out, he'll miss an extra point today. Why not? And although I did see a stat that he's the most accurate kicker in Dolphins history.
I saw that too, and I thought to myself, man, I could have sworn guys like Pete Stoyanovich, Olindo Mare, those guys, I figured they were like, because I remember them as being longtime staples of the Dolphins of yore, and I thought to myself, if Olindo Mare wasn't that accurate, why do we keep him for so long? But I don't know. I guess it's just a lack of volume for Jason Sanders. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we just need to appreciate the era of Jason Sanders because we've never had it this good at kicker, apparently. And then for my hero, I'm going to go with David Long. I think that he's going to have a big game today, has a lot of opportunities there as well. And so give me 41-17 Dolphins.
Oh, so we get a 40 from you, Mike?
Okay. A 41 with that hooked extra point.
Okay. All right. So my picks were made, and I went with Raheem Mostert as my hero as well, but that was before I knew Devon Achane was going to be available. I'm going to stick with the as Skip Bayless would say, stick to the courage of my convictions, and I'm going to stick with Raheem Mostert as my hero. But I do think Devon Achane at the end of the day is going to do something incredible because I think he's just itching to get back on that field after so long. Because if Mike McDaniel went out there and said on the press conference that no, he could have played, we just chose not to, I'm sure that he's right now, Devon Achane, he's probably gonna like explode out of the gate the first chance he gets. So he's just that hungry to get back on the field. But I will pick Mostert as my hero. My 0, and again, this just came from, I have no basis on this. I've said this over and over again. I said this when I did the Behind Enemy Lines, and I posted it last night late with Mike Dixon. So I just feel like Bradley Chubb is just not. He's going to have an off game. I have no reason to believe that. I have no statistical basis for that. It's just raw hunch on that one. I could be and probably am going to be totally off base with that. So that's my thoughts on that. Now, the score I picked was Dolphins would score about What did I say my score was going to be? Oh, yeah. I said it was going to be something along the lines of 38-17. And the only reason the Raiders score 17 is because somewhere down the line, something is going to go wrong. Maybe Raheem Mostert fumbles or something, and the Raiders defense picks it up and goes all the way to the end zone with it. Because I feel like this is the day the Raiders get a defensive touchdown of some sort, but that's why they will end up scoring 2 touchdowns today. So I have the score being 38-17. And we're going to see how this all plays out. This is a very good opportunity for the Dolphins to get right after losing to Kansas City in Germany. They're at home. They have an advantage against a team that another bad football team for the Dolphins to beat up on. And so this is an opportunity for Miami to really put some leverage on how this whole thing is going to go down. Duke, I want to know, do you have any final thoughts real quick?
Well, this is and I know I've discussed on the on Tuesday nights about this is the stretch that the Dolphins have that they can really kind of separate themselves and pull away from the rest of the division and the rest of the AFC. They get the defense has kind of been beleaguered over the course of the year, but they get Aiden O'Connell today. They get Zach Wilson twice. They get Sam Howell, and then they get Will Levis in the next 5 games. So they can do some damage here. We've got another interesting game today, the Bills and the Jets. I'm kind of wanting the Jets to pull that off to get the Bills out of the way. But either way, it's a win-win for the Dolphins, whoever loses. So this upcoming stretch is going to let us know about what this team is and what they can be.
And Eric, your final thoughts before this game begins. Are you frozen? Sir, are you frozen? Eric is not there. He is gone. He is frozen in time. Okay, so I'm just gonna we'll get him back in as soon as we can. Michael, what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off of that in that I posted on Monday that, of course, the Bills have a gauntlet coming up with after the Jets today, whom they've already lost to. They have the Eagles as well as the Chiefs. They have at the Chargers. They have the Cowboys at home coming up. As long as the Bills lose 2 games the rest of the year and the Dolphins win 5, the Dolphins clinch the division. And if the Dolphins' next 5 sets up pretty well, in that it's the Raiders, the Jets, the Commanders, the Titans, and the Jets again, none of which have a winning record. So the Dolphins can theoretically clinch this thing with 3 games to go in the season. Going overseas, losing to a really good team, hearing all the chatter about the Dolphins can't beat a good team or so forth, as if strength of record matters as much as it does in college football. I think it's imperative that the Dolphins go out today, punch the Raiders in the mouth, get back on track, and show some resiliency there. So looking for that, and hopefully we can get the division sealed up sooner than later.
All right. And welcome back, Eric. I guess you had a little internet cutout. So we were just asking for final thoughts before this game starts.
Just the most important thing to remember, this game for the Dolphins is the worst lose-lose situation to be in. If they win, it's just another below 500 team that they beat. And if they lose to another team above 500 and can't beat the good teams. So you may as well go out and beat them by as much as you can.
All right, so let's go ahead and close this out here. Really appreciate everybody joining me today. So with all that said, once again, if you haven't already done so, make sure you're going over to prizepicks.com. Use that promo code 5. That's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you signed up. Be like Hooked Up Joel, who joined up last week and said it's fun to play. Yep, testimonial. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Use that promo code. It's going to help you out to get some big time cash. Now I got to go make the same bets for my father. So with all that said, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you at the end of the game for Final Yard post-game show. We will see if we have some new faces or all the same faces, or maybe some extra faces. Who knows? We just want to be able to enjoy some Dolphins football today. Once again, thank you all for joining us. We will see you all later for post-game.